You know what's terrifying? The number of men who coast into their 50s thinking they've got it figured out, only to make one or two catastrophic financial decisions that destroy everything they've built over 30 years. Look, your 50s are the most financially dangerous decade of your life. You're making peak income. You've got confidence from years of success, and you're close enough to retirement that mistakes don't have time to recover, but far enough away that it doesn't feel urgent. Here's the thing. There are 5 specific financial traps that absolutely demolish men in their 50s. And the worst part? Nobody warns you about them until it's too late. Not your financial advisor, not your friends, nobody. I'm going to show you exactly what these traps are, why smart, successful men fall into them, and how to avoid destroying your retirement in the decade when you should be securing it. According to research from the Employee Benefit Research Institute, men aged 50 to 59 have a median retirement account balance of about $144,000. Sounds decent, right? Except financial advisors recommend having 6 times your annual salary saved by age 50. If you're making $100,000, you should have $600,000 saved. Most men have less than a quarter of that. But here's where it gets really interesting and disturbing. According to a study by Fidelity, men in their 50s are statistically the most likely age group to make catastrophic financial mistakes, more likely than men in their 20s, 30s, or 40s. Why? Because the combination of peak earning, overconfidence, and proximity to retirement creates the perfect storm for terrible decisions. And the brutal truth is, one bad decision in your 50s can cost you more than a decade of bad decisions in your 30s. Because you don't have time to recover. Now you might be thinking, Brian, I've been managing money for 30 years. I think I know what I'm doing. That's exactly the attitude that gets men in their 50s destroyed. If you want to make it through this decade without blowing up your retirement, hit subscribe. Because we're about to expose the financial traps that nobody talks about until after you've fallen into them. Here's what most people don't realize. The biggest threat to men in their 50s isn't market crashes or bad investments. It's themselves. You're finally making serious money. You're probably earning 2 to 3 times what you made in your 30s. And after decades of grinding, you feel like you deserve to enjoy it. So you upgrade the house. You buy the luxury car you've always wanted. You join the country club. You take the expensive vacations. You think, I've earned this. And you have. But here's the brutal math nobody shows you. Let's say you're 50. Making $150,000 a year. You upgrade from a $350,000 house to a $600,000 house. The mortgage difference is about $1,500 per month. That's $18,000 per year. $18,000 per year invested for the 15 years until retirement at 8% return equals $523,000. That house upgrade just cost you $500,000 in retirement savings. But it gets worse. You also upgrade your car. Instead of keeping your paid-off vehicle, you buy a $70,000 luxury car with a $1,200 monthly payment. Over those same 15 years, that's another $465,000 in lost retirement savings. The house and car alone cost you nearly $1 million in retirement wealth. And here's the psychological trap. It doesn't feel like you're being irresponsible. You're making good money. You can afford the payments. You're not going into credit card debt. But every dollar you spend on lifestyle in your 50s is a dollar that can't compound for retirement. And at 50, you're in the sweet spot where money can still double or triple before you need it. Look, I'm not saying live like a monk in your 50s. I'm saying every lifestyle upgrade has a real, calculable retirement cost. And most men never do the calculation. Let me be blunt. Divorce in your 50s is financial suicide. According to data from the Census Bureau, about 25% of divorces involve people over 50. This is called gray divorce, and it's increasing. And here's the brutal math. Divorce in your 50s is roughly 10 times more financially destructive than divorce in your 30s. Why? Because you're splitting assets when they're at their peak, right before retirement when you need them most. Let's run the actual numbers. Say you're 52, you've been married 25 years, and you've accumulated $800,000 in retirement accounts and $400,000 in home equity. Total net worth, $1.2 million. You get divorced. In most states, that gets split roughly 50-50. You walk away with $600,000. But here's what most people don't realize. The destruction doesn't stop there. You now have to pay for your own housing. If you were spending $3,000 per month on housing as a couple, you're probably spending $2,500 per month solo. That's barely a savings. You're still paying similar amounts for utilities, insurance, food, transportation. Economies of scale are gone. And if there's alimony or you're supporting college-age kids, you might actually be spending more than when you were married. So your living expenses didn't have, but your assets did. And here's where it gets really devastating. You went from needing to fund one retirement to needing to fund two separate households in retirement. Your expenses in retirement didn't drop proportionally to your asset split. Let me show you the math. Before divorce, $1.2 million supporting one household. After divorce, $600,000 supporting one household. You need the same amount, but you have half the assets. According to research from Boston College's Center for Retirement Research, men who divorce after 50 see their retirement savings decline by an average of 40% even after accounting for the asset split, because the ongoing expenses force them to save less or withdraw early. And here's the thing, I'm not giving relationship advice, but I am telling you the financial reality. If you're 50 plus and considering divorce, or if you're in a marriage that's heading that direction, you need to understand that you're potentially ending any hope of a comfortable retirement. Some men in their 50s choose divorce knowing the financial consequences and decide it's worth it for their happiness. That's their choice. But most men don't actually run the numbers before making the decision. Here's what nobody tells you. Your 50s are when your job becomes the most dangerous to your long-term wealth. You're making peak income. You've got seniority, you're comfortable, and that comfort is destroying you. Let me explain. You're 55, making $180,000 a year at a company you've been with for 20 years. You're vested in the pension. You've got stock options. You're 3 levels below the C-suite, and you hate it. You're burned out. Your boss is terrible. The company culture is toxic, but you can't leave because you're so close to full pension vesting or because you're waiting for those stock options to fully vest. So you stay, and you stay miserable. And here's the brutal truth, that misery is costing you money. According to research from the Harvard Business Review, burned out employees are 63% more likely to take sick days, 23% more likely to visit the ER, and significantly more likely to make mistakes that damage their career trajectory. You're so focused on hanging on for the pension or the stock options that you're not seeing the opportunities you're missing. And here's where it gets really interesting. The golden handcuffs are often fool's gold. Let me show you the math. Your pension is worth maybe $40,000 per year starting at 65. That sounds valuable, but if you left now at 55 and took that energy to a different company or started a consulting business, you might make an extra $30,000 to $50,000 per year for the next 10 years. $40,000 per year for 10 years is $400,000. Invested at 8%, that's $628,000 by age 65. Your pension might pay $40,000 annually starting at 65. Over 20 years of retirement, that's $800,000 in total payments, but $628,000 growing at 8% from age 65 to 85 becomes $3 million. Even if you withdraw $40,000 per year from it, you'd still have more than the pension provided. The golden handcuffs aren't as golden as you think. Now you might be thinking, Brian, but I have stability. Switching jobs at 55 is risky? Is it? Or have you just convinced yourself it's risky because you're comfortable? Look, I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow, but I am saying that staying in a soul-crushing job because of golden handcuffs often costs you more than leaving ever would. Here's a trap that absolutely destroys men in their 50s, financially supporting adult children who should be independent. According to Pew Research, 52% of young adults aged 18 to 29 lived with their parents in 2020. And many of those parents are men in their 50s. And it's not just housing, it's car payments, insurance, cell phone bills, credit card debt bailouts. Let me show you the actual cost. Your 26-year-old son lives at home rent-free. You're paying his car insurance, $150 per month, cell phone, $80 per month, and he's on your health insurance. You also gave him $10,000 to pay off credit card debt last year and $5,000 as a down payment for his car. But here's what most people don't realize. Helping your adult children financially in your 50s often hurts them more than it helps them. When you bail them out of debt, you remove the consequences that teach financial responsibility. When you let them live rent-free indefinitely, you remove the pressure that forces independence. And the brutal truth is, if you destroy your retirement helping your kids in their 20s, you'll become a financial burden on those same kids in your 70s and 80s. You're not helping them. You're delaying the problem and making it worse. Look, there's a difference between helping a kid through a genuine emergency and enabling financial dependence. In your 50s, you cannot afford the latter. Here's the trap that destroys more men in their 50s than any other: the belief that they need to catch up on retirement savings by taking big risks. You're 52. You've got $300,000 saved but need $1.5 million by 65. You're way behind. So when your buddy mentions cryptocurrency or a startup promising 20% returns, you think, I can't get there with index funds. So you take $100,000 and swing for the fences, and you lose it all. According to FINRA, investors aged 50 to 65 are the most likely to fall for investment fraud. Why? Time pressure and desperation. The math is devastating. $100,000 in index funds at 8% for 13 years becomes $271,000. $100,000 in a failed opportunity becomes $0. That's $271,000, 5 to 6 years of retirement income, gone. And here's what ties all these traps together: overconfidence. By your 50s, you've been successful for 30 years. You've survived recessions and market crashes. So you start believing you're smarter than you are. That overconfidence makes you blind to risk. The lifestyle inflation doesn't feel risky. The divorce doesn't feel catastrophic. The golden handcuffs feel safe. Supporting your kids feels like good parenting. The risky investment feels like a smart opportunity. And here's what most people don't realize: the financial mistakes that destroy men in their 50s don't feel like mistakes when you're making them. They feel like reasonable decisions. That's what makes this decade so dangerous. Let me show you the math. Man A avoids the traps. Age 50, $400,000 saved. No lifestyle inflation, no divorce, switches jobs at 55, stops supporting adult kids, invests conservatively. Age 65, $1.82 million. Man B falls for the traps. Age 50, $400,000 saved. Lifestyle inflation, divorce at 52, assets cut to $200,000. Stays in golden handcuffs job, supports 2 adult kids, loses $75,000 on risky investment. Age 65, $287,000, same starting point. Different decisions. Man A retires comfortably. Man B works until 70 plus or retires broke. Look, here's the brutal truth. Your 50s are when you find out whether you're actually going to have a comfortable retirement. The decisions you make between 50 and 60 have 3 to 5 times the impact of decisions between 30 and 40. You're in peak earning years with less time to recover, and compound interest is running out of runway. If you're behind on retirement in your 50s, you have 3 legitimate solutions: save dramatically more, work longer, or reduce retirement expectations. That's it. There's no secret fourth option where you gamble your way to retirement. Here's your action plan. Before any lifestyle upgrade, calculate the retirement cost. If considering divorce, run full financial numbers first. Evaluate golden handcuffs objectively. Calculate total lifetime value. Set firm boundaries with adult children. And absolutely no risky investments to catch up. Most men will recognize themselves in these traps and do nothing. They'll keep coasting because change is uncomfortable. But 10 to 15% will take this seriously. They'll run the numbers, they'll make hard decisions, they'll avoid the traps, and in 10 to 15 years, one group retires comfortably with $1.5 to $2 million. The other group has $200,000 to $400,000, works until 70, and wonders what happened. The difference? Decisions made in their 50s. You're in the most financially dangerous decade of your life. Mistakes are permanent. I've shown you the traps and the math. Your 65-year-old self is watching you right now, hoping you make the right choice. Don't let them down.